by IHMA Piravam and IHMA Trivandrum. Today our faculty is Dr. Meeta Nihlani. I would like to present a brief discussion about Dr. Meeta. The Anahata Healing Foundation is a venture of Dr. Meeta Nihlani, a classical homeopath who has been practicing homeopathy since 1991 as the Homeo Clinic. She is a fellow of Homeopathic Psychiatry and Counseling. She has got success in less ventured areas with homeopathy in an autoimmune cases such as rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid issues, polycystic ovaries, infertility, and many psychiatric ailments like depression, bipolar disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders. Pediatric attention deficit problems and autism are also dealt with substantial success. Even addictive tendencies can be worked out at Anahata Healing Foundation. She has done FHPC at the Other Song Academy, a fellowship course in homeopathic psychiatry and counseling. So here I welcome Dr. Meeta Nihlani for today's session.
Thank you so much.
Yes, doctor.
Yeah. So we'll start, and thank you for inviting me on this platform. I'm sharing my screen right now.
Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Are you able to see my screen?
Yeah, ma'am. We can make it full screen. We can see the Zoom and we can see the presentation as well.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you can play the button. The play button is enough, I think.
Not able to locate it today. New share.
Yeah. No. Right now it's shared, ma'am. We can see the screen.
Yeah. Right.
So you can make it full screen. Yeah. Yeah. Right now it's okay.
Right. 1 second. Right. So we'll start.
Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Deepu. We are meeting for the third time again, right? So I'll start with my favorite quote. I transform lives through my power to surrender. This is given by my mentor, Narmada Akshat Pratap Singh. And as you know that we are in a field where we always require new interventions. So we need that divine intervention to help us in these difficult cases. And that is how we grow. So today's topic is psychiatric overview of pediatric cases. Right? Today we are living in a world of chaos, and unfortunately we are seeing many pediatric cases around. It may be because of the structure of the society which we are forming now, because of breakage of many joint family system, the cultures and the lifestyles. I think all these are attributed to many psychiatric pediatric cases which are coming to us in this era. So we need many more tools to deal with these cases, because it is very heartbreaking to see our little angels suffer from these diseases or these issues, right? So this is just about me, as Dr. Lakshmi has said that I have a Anahat Healing Foundation in Raipur in Chhattisgarh. I'm practicing in Chhattisgarh. And this is my email ID for any further queries. If there are any doubts you may be encountering later. So today, as it was said in the introduction, that I have done fellowship in homeopathic psychiatry and counseling. So that is a new addition of already what we knew in our homeopathy. We are trying to see homeopathy from very different aspects, because when a patient comes to us, sometimes some part of the patient's personality is revealed, or sometimes we see some aspects of a remedy which are lesser known. Sometimes we are able to see the full blown picture, and sometimes we are not at all able to see the full blown picture or the known picture, and there are many unknown aspects of the remedy which are seen and which we are not able to also connect to the whole case. So this is one more perspective. It's a personal evolution method which is now being taught by Dr. Mahesh Gandhi, and we are doing it in our Vitalia H webinars. We are a group of doctors who are working on mental health based on Dr. Gandhi's teaching, and we are presenting some cases which we are able to solve with his teachings, right? So today I'll start with a case of autism which I was able to solve only because of this background, which I would have not been able to solve confidently without this understanding. So now both of my cases, they are based on the sensation method which is taught by Dr. Rajan Sankaran, and also some glimpses of personal evolution method by Dr. Gandhi. So we can't say that we are standing on the shoulders of all our masters. Everything which we have been learning since um, college life, everything contributes to our growth. So now, what is sensation method? Uh, Dr. Deepu, can you remove this off from my screen? Yeah, so sensation method is based on the premise that each individual within us, we have a specific and distinct energy that shapes us who we are at our being. We all are individuals. Homeopathy deals with very individualistic traits. So our likes, our dislikes, the way we think, the way we act, the way we feel, and finally our illnesses also have that distinctive character. So this energy pattern is called as the other song. The other song defines our state of being. So whatever we do, our hobbies, our likes, our dislikes, our characteristics, so everything is being shaped by this energy pattern which is within us. So this is the flavor which is given by our other song, and that is why the academy by Dr. Shankaran is named as the Other Song Academy. So now, in this sense, what we believe is, we have three kingdoms, major three kingdoms based on this approach. We have remedies either from plant, animal, or mineral kingdom. Although we have three more kingdom, but basically in the beginning we talk about these three kingdoms. So based on these three kingdoms, we have different energy flavors and different behavioral patterns. So now this one more method, which is personal evolution method. This is based on the inner age. We are all stuck at one level of development. Like we have many times we have seen that we have seen children who are much beyond their age. They carry the burden on their shoulders. What we see in carcinosin is small little child who is bearing the brunt of the conflict of the parents or the addictions of the father, and he tries to behave a much more grown up. He behaves much ahead of his age. So that is how we see remedies also in this based on this personal evolution method. Sometimes we see an old man but it is very childlike, like we have seen in Beraita Kab. So when Dr. Gandhi studied many more cases, what he saw was that we all are stuck at one developmental stage, and that is the point where we have our crisis, the psychosocial crisis, and that is where our lessons lie. We are here to basically learn some lessons. This earth is a school for us, and we are here to learn certain lessons. And that is where we are stuck in our lives. Our diseases also want to give us those lessons. So we have a crisis, we have an inner age, we have a crisis, and we have certain virtues or certain lessons to be learned and integrated. So this is the basis of personal evolution method. and this is based on Erik Erikson's chart of psychosocial development. So this is nothing new, right? This is already seen. There are 8 stages, which are infant, then toddler, then we have 3 to 5 years preschool age, then we have school age, then we have adolescence, then we have early adult, then we have adult, and then we have old age. So on these basis we have our own issues and then subsequent virtues. The only thing, one difference we have in personal evolution method, we are seeing 8 ages in this. We have, Dr. Gandhi has added one more stage to this, and that is the womb stage. As we also know, like we have noble gases in our remedies. That is the stage 18 column of the periodic table, if you are well aware with periodic table. But that is considered as the womb stage, as the stage 0 of the next column, right? So this is the way how we see things in um, personal evolution method. So now today, as we are seeing, as today my first case is based on autism. I tried, after a series of cases, uh, I had, I don't know, last few years I started getting cases of autism back to back. So and the way the autism cases were being treated, or the way I was getting the results, it somehow gave me some deeper insights, and also a way of my being that, maybe I'm the chosen one and I have to do this work, because the cases have responded very beautifully and in very short span of time. Normally autism is something which we say is not, we are not able to cure it, or there are many cases which are not being able to solve. But with these all integrated approaches, we are able to see many good results in autism, and that is what I want to share with you all today. So what is autism? Basically autism is basically, uh, you know the child is not able to integrate the sensory things, sensory issues with it. There are so many senses. We have 5 senses, that is sight, sound, smell, touch, taste, and balance, and body awareness. So sometimes in most of our cases we see that one of these, or many of these uh, senses are affected in autism. So what I saw here was that, the development at the level of senses is impaired. That is why sometimes they react in a hypo. There is a hypo reaction to senses. Like we all know about opium. Opium doesn't respond to pain. There is sometimes no awareness of that pain, and sometimes there is a hyper reaction. There is an extravagance of that pain and fear. There is a extravagant reaction to that pain, in form of pain or fear. So somehow this senses, there is a problem at the level of senses. So most of the cases we see belong to the womb stage, or are very primitive stage of development. So there may be a hyperreaction or a hyporeaction. So this is how this method helps us to see where the person is coming from, from where the problem is coming from. Also, we see sometimes that there is a overreaction, hyperreaction to a stimulus. Uh, Either the boundaries are not well developed in the primitive, in the initial stages of development, or there are too strong boundaries and too strong reactions. And that is where we this method helps us to uh, you know try to map out where the patient is coming from. So in some of in during the course of my treatment in autism, there are other adjuvants during the treatment. I try to ask my patients to go gluten free, sugar free, and dairy free till the remedy is selected and it starts working. So this also gets integrated in the during the course of time, and then gradually we can start introducing these gluten, sugar, and dairy in their diet. But initially I prefer my patients to abstain from this if possible, whatever, however possible, or to the extent it is possible with the children. So now this is the first case of autism. So this is a child of 6 years old, and he was not able to listen. He just had this kind of energy. He had this kind of expressions whenever there was a sound in the background, or whenever there was some noise, or whenever there was some traffic going on, or whenever there were sudden noises. So this is one of the most common things which comes in autism. But here, what we saw was our child, who was 6 years old, his milestones were very fast. He learned everything. He learned walking very fast, but he was not able to communicate. He was not able to talk. He was very aggressive. He hits people and he doesn't listen, and he goes into tantrums when he is not given due attention, or whenever his whims and fancies are not fulfilled. So this was a case which I solved, like when he entered my chamber, he started kicking and throwing tantrums. He just started, kicking. This was what he did after, when his grandmother, he came with his grandmother and his uncle. The mother came, was there with them, but she did not come inside. So this was his behavior in the clinic. This was his expression. This is not the real pic of the child, but this was the expression. So now, what history I got was that this child is more connected with the grandmother. His father was suffering from cerebral palsy, and his mother was illiterate from South India. She was somebody who did not know the language. We are staying in this Chhattisgarh, and Hindi is a very spoken language here. So this lady, she did not even understand Hindi, so she did not communicate with the world. She was always inside, and she did not take the child outside. And the child always wanted to go outside home, but he was kept inside because of the mother's fear. She was not able to face the world. She said, I don't know anybody and I'm scared of going outside, and that's why she made it a point that the child stays home. And she also had this habit, she wanted him to speak like other children. So he wanted she wanted her child to speak properly, to take the words, but he was not able to talk and learn. So that is where she used to hit him. She used to hit him, ki, why don't you speak? She did not have that understanding that the child has some problem, or even after having that understanding, she was not able to stop herself from hitting him. And that is why the child always wanted to stay with the grandmother. So here the child, he and there was also one history of the child, that he always wanted to go outside, but he wanted to go to the same places. He did not want to go to a new shop. He did not want to go to a departmental store which he has not gone before. So he insisted to go on the same places, the same ice cream shop, the same departmental store. So he always had this, he threw tantrums in shops which he was not used to going. So now what we see here, overview of this child, is here we see a child who's very scared of the mother. His mother hits him a lot. He feels safe with the grandmother. He wants to go at the known places. He throws tantrums in unknown places. He screams and kicks. He walks on toes. He cannot listen loud voices. He lands up in high grade fever frequently. He cannot speak. He hits everyone. At school also, now parents have started receiving complaint that he is getting aggressive recently because the teacher has changed. He was quite comfortable with the previous teacher, but now the teacher has changed. So he has got aggressive and he has started hitting the teacher and also his co-students. So he is very aggressive there also. He kicks when triggers, he throws tantrums, and he rolls on the ground, and also he has no eye contact, which is again a symptom of autism. There is no eye contact. So now he, as you see, that autism spectrum disorder is a complex development disability typically appearing during childhood and affecting the person's ability to communicate and interact with the world. So this is what we saw in the child, that his ability to communicate and interact with others is affected. So these are the types, and or the whole spectrum. There are types, and these are the symptoms. They do not show interest in normal things. They do not look at the objects when shown. They have a trouble relating to others. They avoid eye contact. They have trouble understanding others, people, feelings, or talking about their own feelings. There is a kind of emotional disconnect in these autistic people. They prefer not to be held or cuddled, or they might cuddle only when they want to. So there is a kind of self will, they will respond only when they want to. Otherwise, if they don't even respond to the names, and that is where most of the time the parents come to know that there is some problem with the child, when the child doesn't respond to their own names. So sometimes they have actions which are repeated. They repeat some actions. Like recently, I have a child who just sees the fan. He just wants to see the rotating fan and the exhaust fans. The parents have to stop him from going near the exhaust fan. He just goes there and he can watch. He can watch the rotating fan for for quite a number of time. So now also there is a sensory meltdown. This is a word which is used. There are acute episodes when the child is not not being handled. The parents are not able to handle the child during these sensory meltdowns, and that is where uh, we try to identify their sensory triggers. They try distracting the child. Sometimes they are put that good weighted blanket on the child. These are the things which normally autistic therapists they suggest the parents. Now what is this investing a good weighted blanket? Again, here what we see that most of the times I've seen in my patients of autism that they are not very grounded in their body. You see that they are just hovering, their consciousness is just hovering up, and they are not grounded in their bodies. That is why there is a kind of disconnect with their own bodies and their own sensations. So this is also, they there are say they have some activities, these people they do keep on doing some activities just to feel themselves. Sometimes they'll just swing, they'll rotate, they'll flap their hands, they'll keep on touching everything, they'll watch rotating objects. This is what I told you all. Recently I have a patient who just watches this fan and the exhaust fan. So now you have to understand what is this sensory overload. So now on this basis, this was the history which I got, and there was certain observation. So in most of the cases, what is the tool which we what is the tool for autistic children for giving them medicines or working out autism cases in autism, because the child is not able to speak. So we don't have that verbal clue given by the child. So we just see the behavioral patterns, like what, how the how the child is behaving, what is the child doing in front of you. So those subtle expressions of the child are to be picked up, and his behavior in the clinic, in your chamber, is one more very important tool which you have to take. And the second is the history from the relatives and family. And third, which I take, is which I'll tell you all in next case. In this case, the history from the mother was very difficult. The only thing which we got was that she was diabetic after the pregnancy, but after the delivery, but not during pregnancy. There was some traits, but not much. And the mother was also, there was a language constraint. She could not speak anything other than Malayalam, and which obviously I couldn't understand. So here the only two tools which I had was the history from the grandmother and the way he behaved in the clinic. So now I'll just show you the follow up before going. Uh, this was a case which responded within 6 weeks, and this was, I think, third or fourth month follow up. There was 80% improvement in toe walking, 50% of his fear was gone, 30% concentration was improved. There was the repetition of words. He used to repeat some common words, and he did not, there was no vocabulary as such. One or two words he used to repeat, and he did not learn new words. So this was what I saw in a span of 6 weeks in this child. So now, any clues? Uh, Anybody? Yeah, the remedies are coming up here. Right, so the remedies which have come up are theridion and boron. Anyone else? Should I disclose the remedy? So it's a very, very common remedy which now we give, and the remedy which I gave was chamomila, and the potency which I gave was 1 m. Now, isn't it a very common remedy? We all know about this remedy, but thinking of this simple remedy in autism is something which was, an eye opener for me too. And it was given on one simple keynote that he kicked. When he was entering my chamber, he was just kicking, and that was the rubric on which before even he entered my clinic, I gave him chamomila 1 m, 3 doses, and I just told them to just take the child away so that I can talk to the grandmother. And he was like a storm in my clinic. Like, I have multiple chambers in my clinic, and there are other people who are working. So he just came as a storm, and there was, like, nobody was able to work because the way he was shouting, the way he was kicking, and the way that small little child of 6 years, it took 3 people to take, they were just holding him to stop kicking from all the four extremities, and he was just going this way. And so, just on this basis, just before he came to my chamber, we prescribed chamomila 1 m, and by the time I took the history from the grandmother. So now, how do we see this case? So chamomila is we all know about the chamomile tea. So why it is taken? Because it's a relaxant, right? So some clinical trials are there that it works like benzodiazepine, and these are the remedies which reduce anxiety and induce sleep. Right, so this is a chamomile tea which normally we take for relaxation. And what we saw in this child was such aggression and such overexcitement of his state that it took three persons to calm him down. Deepu, is there any way? This is not moving, the slide is not moving. Can you help, Deepu? Right. So see, when I went to complete repertory, what I saw was chamomila is one of the remedies which was given in autism. And here my confidence grew that okay, I can think this remedy for the chronic also, the overall this case. So when the child was within 15 minutes, this child was much calmer and he was able to come and sit on his grandmother's lap besides me in the consultation room. So it meant that he had calmed down with the remedy, but I was not very sure that is this a remedy to be prescribed for the autism or it was just the acute remedy chamomila which we give for such tantrums, the just the kicking behavior. So now this is a chart which we have for the plant remedy. Here I could see that from the history, I could see that there was a sensitivity towards one thing in this child, and that was the injury his mother gave him. He was constantly hit by the mother, and the mother was very she was a very angry person. She was not at all pleasant to be around with the whole family. So what they had done, the grandmother was staying in the third floor and second floor, and the mother was staying in the first floor. They had separate flats because of the mother's nature. But this child always wanted to go to the dadi. He did not know how to say dadi, but da da da. He used to tell it that he wanted to go upstairs. He used to show his hand. So now what we see in, if we come to this chart, we have six subclasses over here. First is the magnoliales, the Nux moscata family, and the opium family. We have all this, and in the last we have solanales, gentianales, ignatia family, and composite family in the last subclass. Six subclass, that is what here. So now, just by having this idea that either these people are very primitive or very either they don't have any boundaries, like in the beginning it's just the energy and the vessel is to be prepared, and as we go further in evolution in these six subclasses, till we come to the sixth subclass, we are so individuated. The whole story of evolution is based on the individualization. So initially, in like in opium family, there is no individuation. Like in Nux moscata, pulsatilas, the ego is not developed. What we know about pulsatilla is that the pulsatilla person goes with the wind. It goes, whatever you say, it will go. It is very mild yielding remedy. So the ego is not developed. So that is what we see in first subclass. And as we come to the last subclass, that is sixth subclass, which has belladonna, which has hyoscyamus, which has ignatias, gensemiums, nux vomica, what we see is all the remedies of these subclass, they have a very strong will. uh, and even Arnika is a person who is known for the highest ego. It will not even show that. Even at extreme sickness, Ignatia will never, this Arnika will never show that I need you. I need you. It will send the doctor away. We know this rubric. So we knowing these rubrics is one thing, but when we understand these rubrics in context of this evolution and in context of the subclasses, we understand our remedies better. So here what we saw, that the child is afraid of injury, he doesn't like being hit, and he is hitting back. He's hitting everybody back. He even hit his dadi in front of me when she was trying to hold him and make him sit for some more time. So even he slapped his grandmother. So what we saw in this case was that he was sensitive to the injury he received, and he gave that injury back, and that is what the very common rubric of chamomila is seen, that kicks. We have this rubric. So now if we study this remedy in this context, the sixth subclass, here we see this is a remedy asterales. This is a family asterales, which is in the end column of sixth subclass, means the borders are too strong. So the journey from no ego to ego is almost over, and the ego is so strong that we are so individuated by this time that we feel the threat from outside. Every That hypersensitivity and the struggle, everything is seen as a war. So this is what is sixth subclass, which is the remedy from it is Chamomilla vulgaris. The family is Compositae. So this group shows sensitivity, and there is extra irritability. Everything penetrates their boundaries and they respond with aggression. That is why when the child was brought to a chamber which was unknown to him, and he just started kicking at the door, at the boundaries, because he has very strong boundaries where he can be taken and where he cannot be taken. And that is what he does in the same in the departmental stores, his ice cream store, it is fixed. So these people have great sensitivity to people, impressions, germs, and especially to pain. They can be servile yielding until they encounter resistance to their will, reacting strongly to the resistance or offense. The nervous system is very extremely sensitive, and that is why we have convulsions after fever in belladonna. In stramonium, in hyoscyamus, we see the violence because the nervous system is extremely sensitive. So chamomilla we also give, it's a remedy for pain everywhere and in insufferable intensity. There is pain everywhere, and therefore whining and restless. Immediate pains are body first reaction in spasms, in colic, in headaches, or in asthma. Any pain drives them crazy. They wail and groan a lot. As a result of pain, they can be very completely self centered. They cannot stand anything. Everything is insufferable and does not want anyone to come near them. Screams when getting near. So when you try to enter these boundaries, they have very strong boundaries. The first subclass is no boundaries at all. They'll just go on sway. You come to me, I come to you, you go there, and there are no boundaries. They just sway. They go with the flow. But here the boundaries are very strong. You cannot enter near me. You cannot come near me without my permission. So that is what is chamomila when we see it from the context of subclass 6 and lower rows. So the don't touch me attitude element of asterales. So how we see chamomila children as they like to fight and nag. They are very aggressive and their behavior is very mean, angry, cries, shouts, and that is their trigger to the disease. They calm down only when carried. So here we see that calming. They need that calming which the chamomile tea, the thing which we know for calming, is given. So here we see the rubric. Now when we see this context of SIP subclass and composite and injury, now every rubric here makes sense. We can understand every rubric and why of everything. We see the why of all the rubrics. So mind, anger, children in, stiff become when bent backward and kick when carried, throw everything off. So here we have only 5 remedies, that is chamomila, Cinna, which is from the same group, Cuprum, Creosote and Lilium tip. Lilium tip also belongs to almost the 6th subclass, but it's a monocot. So 3 remedies of this rubric are from 6th subclass, and that is what we call as king series, where the ego is evolved like a king. So you can't go near a king without the bodyguards or without his permission. So that is that kind of power and attitude and that kind of aggression they have. So the asterales are located at the end of ego's establishment journey, defined even by the society. The end of column 6 and the table of plant as a whole represents the final stage of self-definition and individuation. It has a frequent feeling of losing oneself in family relationships and social relationships. Here, relationships, they are above the relationship. This is a king, right? So, king is not only for his family, the king is for the world. The consciousness or the interaction is at a higher level. So, the reaction to this, on one hand, is fighting for one's uniqueness and against any intrusion of one's boundaries, while on the other hand, being noticed and craving attention. So, the encounter with the society threatens the ego, creating a sensation of war and feeling of being injured or hurt with increased sensitivity to pain and a tendency to injury, coupled with the need to move or escape. This is what I could see clearly in the child when he was coming to my chamber. So, here there is a war. Here he is so individuated. The boundaries are so strong. You know, the king, he has achieved that king kind of ego, and his identity is like the king. He has achieved so much in the society. So now he feels that I am threatened from outside because I am at a high position. Now I am getting those attacks from outside, and that is why everything he perceives as injury, and that is where he reacts, and that is what is whole of compositive family. So there, here we also have the theme of loneliness, because intimate and social relations come up along with the powerful need to touch, but owing to high sensitivity and awareness, this touch must be very precise. So in practice, the touch will often result in recoiling and establishing over rigid boundaries. For these reasons, there are physical issues of boundaries such as bacterial and parasitic invasion. So the pathology also, what we see in chamomila or in the 6th subclass, is like that. The fevers, the convulsions, everything, the boundaries are breached. Bacteria, parasites, autoimmune disorders. So you will be able to understand the gravity of the pathology when we see the ego or the development. So here what we see, the precise touch, he wants the touch from outside, but the touch has to be precise the way he wants. And see how this, the precise touch is beautifully converted into our rubrics. So here the touch, precise touch, is given by the dadi, the grandmother. Mother here is threatening because she intrudes his borders and hits him when he can't speak. So this is the rubrics which conform to this understanding. So mind carried desires to be comfortable and cheerful in mother's lap, right? So this is one of the rubrics. He wants that precise touch. He wants to be in the mother's lap only, and only she is allowed to touch him. These people, they also have issues with changes, like we saw in our case, in our child who wanted to go to the same departmental store, same ice cream store, and he wanted to go to the same mall, and the only issue he had was going to unknown place, even unknown shop. The clinic was unknown for him, so he was not at all comfortable coming to this clinic. So they want things and then reject them. As a result of extreme sensitivity, they cannot tolerate changes outside themselves, and that is, any change outside of him is seen as an injury, as a threat to his boundaries. So any change is seen as a possibility for pain, for an illness. Sometimes the parents are also hysterical about the illness of the child. Sometimes even if the parent has the same state, they will make a huge mess about the child suffering, and that is what will make the child again go into the shell and not bear the pain. The astrals strongly react to any foreign energetic influence and stand guard at the borders, but every remedy, the nature of response is very unique. What distinguishes astrals is the predisposition to actively and forcefully guard their boundaries by retaliating and fighting back. So, this is the active response of astrals. Whatever they perceive as an injury, they have to give back, and that is what we have in chamomila, that he'll start kicking, and that is what the child did in that 1 minute. So here, without having that complete history, which I normally take in autism cases, but just this small little reaction and some little tits and bits from the grandmother, I was able to prescribe in this case. So here the ego is very powerful, so it responds aggressively and decisively to slightest offense through erecting boundaries, blocking, spasm, resistance, allergies, assertiveness, aggression, violence, and outright cruelty. In nutshell, war with related themes of accidents, blows, and bleeding. Right. So here you will be able to see the pathology also behaves like as if there is a war. Um, the high fevers, the inflammations, all this we see in belladonna, right? So belladonna is a first remedy of inflammation. It means there is a war within. The signal is there. There is fever. So now we start understanding pathology also from this, understanding how the border is breached, and we can understand that what triggered these, what might have triggered these inflammation, anger. What we have seen, belladonna is a remedy for rage. And what is the rage about? Breaching the boundaries. So as the ego's development peaks, so does the oversensitivity and vulnerability to hurt and injury from the world. The response may be varying from screaming in pain to attacking the perpetrator. So there is an aversion to touch, as it is obvious because of the strong boundaries. There is an aversion to touch. They like being touched only in a specific way. Likewise, every injury is liable to produce deep pain as though wronged by life itself. Right. So it is a feeling that they have been wronged. Don't touch me. There is a battle for distinct identity with a desire to be special and differentiated from other flowers in the meadow. They need and crave touch, but it must be precisely tailored to their specific needs and expectation. And this precise, tailored touch was given only by the grandmother who could understand the child, not by the mother who was a threat to the child. So here we now see all the rubrics of chamomila in this context, and now you'll understand the why of these rubrics. Mind abusive, insulting, menses before. Menses also again is a injury. Mind abusive, insulting, children insult parents. Now you understand why. Mind, anger, approach of a person as a person approaches toward them, again there is a fear that they'll breach the boundary and then they'll give the injury. So mind, anger, approach of the person. Now we understand why Chamomila is here. Mind, anger, children in stiff become, bend backward, kick when carried, throw everything off. See how everything beautifully is, crystallized in our rubrics. Mind, anger, looked at when. Antim crude, Chamomila, Sina, Naxwamika, Sanicula, Silicia. So, Naxwamika is also from the same subclass, 6 subclass, Sina and Chamomila. So, out of 6, we have 3 remedies which will be angry even when you look at them, because just looking at them will give them that injury. So, these are the subtle points which you can see in your patients of autism or in patients who are not able to speak, or in psychiatric cases when we don't get a full blown picture. In other cases what we do is, we try to complete the whole picture. We go in specific areas, we go into the hobbies of the child, we go in the childhood, we go in the fantasies, we go in the hobbies, we go in the fears. But here we don't, in most of the psychiatric cases we don't have those avenues. Our entry to the information is blocked. So here, just by knowing, that look in the eyes, that, anger, the flicker of anger in the eyes, it will give you the clue that from where it is coming, where this anger is coming, and you can work on it. So mind, anger, looked at when. Mind, anger, offended when. Mind, anger, temper tantrums, falls on floor, kicking and shrieking. Mind, answer, civil, cannot. He cannot give a civil answer, because just by questioning also you're breaching his boundary. Mind, answering, irritable, surly and peevishly. Again we have China and Chamomila and Naxwamika here. So you can see how the 6 subclasses running through and through in these kind of rubrics. Mind, answers snappishly, anxiety, evil from impending heart. Mind, biting, dentition, aggravation. Now what is dentition? Dentition is again an injury. The teeth which they come, they erupt, they tear the gums and they come, they erupt. So this is a injury for the child, and how the child is reacting? By biting. So now understand what is going on within that war is going on. The war that my boundaries are breached and I'm being injured, and he'll kick back. So biting, dentition, aggravation. Now you understand why. And there is only one remedy here, and it's Chamomila, right? So even by just this one single symptom, you can solve the case, understanding the background. Mind, biting, everything. Belladonna and Chamomila, again 6 subclass. Mind, cursing, swearing, pains during, we have Naxwamika and Chamomila from 6 subclass. Mind, delusions, enlarged persons are. Mind, imaginations, obstacles, break to remove. Here every person he sees as an obstacle to his growth, to his individuation. Mind, discontent, wrong, everything and everything another does. Like, because he wants everything his way. His ego is so evolved that he wants everything his way. He wants precise, tailored touch for himself. That is why he'll never be happy with whatever other does. Right? So discontented, wrong, everyone, everything, another not. So he will be always a discontented and a capricious person. There is a aversion to doctor also. Why? Because there is no precise tailored touch. Mind, aversion to parents and father, Chamomila. Grief, wounded feeling from, again see we see this wounded feeling, and only 2 remedies are here, which is Chamomila and Ignatia, and both belong to subclass 6. Mind, intolerance, spoken to of being, Chamomila. Irritability, sends the doctor home. Again, here we see Arnica and Chamomila both belong to 6 subclass and composite family. So now you understand why the doctor is sent home, because the doctor will not give you that precise touch. The doctor will breach your boundaries, he will breach your privacy, and that is why, in spite of the pain, you will send the doctor home. Why will a person who is in such a pain send a doctor home? Because the doctor will examine. The doctor will come into his boundaries, his area, and that is what he doesn't want. That is why he says, I'm well. We have a famous rubric of Arnica. Well says he is when he is not well. That is the reason. One is a full blown ego, and other is the breaching of the boundaries. Mind naked wants to be because of the hyperesthesia of the cutaneous nerves. Mind shrieking, screaming, shouting, obstinate. Touched aversion to being children in. Mind touch aversion to being pulse cannot take there. This is what I told you. You will come and see their pulse. You will come and talk to them. You will, see the guarding of the abdomen. You will give them the thermometer. You will touch them so they don't want to be touched. Mind weeping tearful mood offense by imaginary at least. Even if when you approach them, they will feel that there is an imaginary injury, and that is why there is an anger when you approach. So now we have a tendency to inflammations and high fever. The esterale's propensity to contend with many things all at once exhausts and destabilizes the immune system. The strong reaction of the organism to any perceived threat results in allergies and excess immune defense, also marked by ability to produce intense inflammation and very high fever, which may lead to hallucination. High fever is an expression of high resistance. So now the pathology also behaves the same way. The immune system will also behave the same way. So here you can see how the pathology is going to the level of immune system and allergies. Because allergy is what? It's just an hypersensitivity of the reaction. So sunlight, heat, fever, congestion. Many asteral flowers, such as sunflower, they follow the progress of the sun across the sky as they require a full sun for proper development. So they are an individual personality. They, they need the sun. Sun is the masculine power. So man himself has a potential to turn into the source of light, a sun, by his own efforts. So when we start the journey from subclass 1 to subclass 6, we start as a feminine energy, which is just wishy-washy, and which it is just going with the flow, the pulsatilla female, the housewife, as we know, a remedy. And in the end, we have this king. We have this king series. We have Naxwamikas, we have Belladonnas, we have Arnikas. So here you are fully developed. The ego is full developed. Now it's a king itself. So king doesn't have anybody else to take a decision from. The only power which the king can get is from above, and that is the sun. It is sun means itself the source of everything. So now these people are so developed that they themselves can serve as a sun, as a power, as a powerful source of knowledge, wisdom, everything to the world, and by its own efforts. And that is why symbolically we see sunflower, which is in again the calendula remedy of composite family. We see that every flower it turns towards the sun. So how beautifully everything comes together when you understand things from this context. So here the sun, a symbol of strong ego, takes its place alongside with column 6 themes such as symbol also of father figure and hierarchy. There may be amelioration from or sensitivity to sunlight and heat with a tendency to produce surplus heat as inflammation and fire and fever. So this is expression of the war in the body, acute inflammations, congestion, sepsis, which will often tend to evolve very quickly. So this is how we see this case of autism with just small little bits and pieces of information, and on one keynote we could see that this is a remedy which will take him further. So I did not change the remedy and I kept him on chamomila, and then 1M was given initially, and after that I have raised the potency to 10M, which was given weekly. and the patient is almost 80% better, and still, he could, the child was not able to speak. He could learn, I think in 12 to 14 weeks he learned whole of ABCD with A for apple, B for bug, and till the end Z tak he was able to speak within 6 10 to 12 weeks. 6 weeks when there was in that first follow up was there. So he has continuously grown and he's still growing. So this was the first case. So now this is my experience of homeopathic perspective in my cases of autism. I see ailment from vaccines, I see ailment from injuries, the birth injuries also. Sometimes, in some of the cases, I've seen stress in the parents during the pregnancy period, usually the marital discords. The atmosphere at the home is very violent. There is some domestic violence going on, or one of the parent is very depressed, or one of the parent is very too much into his business. So the state of the parents is altered in during the pregnancy, and that is what sometimes I see in my cases, and from there I get the history. Mother's history during pregnancy is very important. In the next case you will see how that helped me to come to the remedy. And one more thing which I see in my patients of autism is gut biome interference. So there was a case of Proteus, a case which settled much with Proteus, which is a bowel nosode. So we have to also take care of all these things while prescribing for a case of autism. So should I proceed for the second case? We'll take the questions at the end. So the next case is a case of gluten sensitivity and dyslexia. So this was a 12 years old, I've written 10, this is a 12 years old girl. And the way she started was that I don't like when my mom hugs me. She used to puke a lot because of that gluten sensitivity. Whatever she ate, she puked, and there was a pain in her abdomen. And when I asked him what happens during that pain, how do you react, like what is happening in that pain, she says, I feel that, mama comes and hugs me, and I don't like, when I have that pain in my tummy and mama comes and hugs me, I don't like it, because I feel that she is not giving me my space. So I asked her, Ki, when else you feel like this, that you're not giving your space? He says, when the dentist comes over me and he, comes and he works with me. So this is the first experience of her pain. So she says, there is less space to breathe in that when mama comes and hugs me and do what you want to do. So I feel as if I'm squashed, as if some heavy force is coming on me and I'm squashed. Like the dentist coming over me. So here she says, I want the dentist at least half a meter away from me. So now what we see here, she's talking about the space and again the boundaries, right? There what we saw was the boundaries were very strong, and before you came inside, you just pushed them out and kicked him. But here what she says, I feel squashed. I feel as if somebody is coming in my boundaries. So I'm scared of staring. And I asked her, what else you're scared of? She says, I'm scared of staring. When people just stare at me, I'm scared. I try to get away. I want oxygen and clear oxygen that time. And observation was she was constantly playing with her hands. This was a case which I took on Skype. This is a case from Netherlands, and she was constantly playing with with her hands. So when I asked her about staring, like, what is your experience of staring? When did somebody stare at you? What was the experience? Then she talked about a nightmare. She said that this was a nightmare which her mother told that, it happened quite a couple of times. She said that ugly, gooey, slimy pigs in her dreams. The pig was grey, it was full of warts. She woke up being scared. She wanted them to go, and they were threatening, scary pigs. This was her dream. Then, when I asked her about what animals you like, she said, I love snails. They are very smart little fellows. She said they carry their home with them. Snail experiences raindrop as scary. I asked her, what is so smart about carrying your home? She says ki, it's such a small animal, and what if it starts raining when you're out, and raindrops just pour upon you. It's so scary. I asked her, like, what is so scary about the raindrops? She says it is such a small animal and the raindrops might be so heavy on him. I asked her, what will be your experience of, like those raindrops if you were a snail? She says, like how we'll experience cats and dogs pouring over us. This was such a weird thing, and when we work with sensation method, we go in very weird areas, and we don't understand things because they are coming from the other song, the altered energy within you. They are coming from the other song, and we see that she's speaking nonsense, right? Cats and dogs falling over you, and that is how a snail feels while raindrops. So this did not make any sense. So you understand that this is coming from the other song, the non-human specific part of you, right? One is a human story where she says, I don't like the dentist and mother working on me, and one is a non-human story. So this is intertwining of the other song, the sense and the nonsense. They just go intertwined, and we have to see what information we are getting from here. So, what we'll experience when the dog comes over you, that is heaviness. And this is, I asked, she had many colors besides her. And I asked her to doodle. So, she just had a set of colors besides her own. I had not told her to keep it, in the sky because I was not intending to do that. I asked her to make this doodle, and this is what she made, some colors and all. And this is her room. uh, Here she is, you can see her hand, and this is her room. So this, she loves music, she loves painting, and she has this soft toy lying on her bed. Her room was very colorful, so it gave me a feeling that the girl being just 12 years old, this is like I could see like a teenage of 15 to 16 years, and it felt that the room was of a teenager, but the child was 10 to 12 years, not more than that. So now when I asked the hobbies, what were the hobbies? Circus, acrobatics, archery, football. Although playing football is scary, the boys are rough. I'm scared while playing footballs. Somebody may just squash me, like somebody may just come over me and squash me. That is what she said. I asked her, what is this squashing? She said somebody may, like how stampedes happen in football courts when it's overcrowded. So I feel scared because the boys are very rough, and she loves watching this master chef and all. So when I asked her, what is this hobby, why you like acrobatics, he says, I like going higher and higher in those pieces of fabric hanging upside. How people, they hang upside down, and you're just playing with those fabrics and you trying to go higher and higher. So I like that acrobatics. I just watch that. So now this was the history of the child which I got. She has many friends. She used to go to school. She used to enjoy school, especially the outdoor activities. She used to like the coloring. And one line which she said, I have many boyfriends. And then she said, I have many friends. She immediately corrected her. Like, I have many boyfriends, and no, they are just friends, like she corrected her. So again, this gave me a clue, kind of that a 10 years or 12 years girl having many boyfriends again, and that is what she corrected also. So this again gave me some clue that she is towards that adolescence phase. So, mother's history. Now I took the mother's history because from this case I got some clue of the remedy, but still I needed somebody to back up. I needed more information for the backup. So, here the mother said even she experienced vomiting during pregnancy, and it was very, like that continued for quite a lot of months. And again, in that also, what she felt, I felt a fog around me during that nausea period, and which was relaxing and discomfortable at the same time. It stopped me from functioning. So, she also experienced the same nausea which the child experienced after taking the gluten sensitivity. So, because of the similarity of the complaints, I went further in mother's history. It gave me a clue that the state is coming, the things are coming from the same state. So, here this lady also she said I like to harmonize, I like to have harmonious relationships. And she was a lady, she was, when she conceived her daughter, she herself was a teenager that time. She was studying in college, and she got pregnant during studies only. And she said that relationship with her boyfriend was not harmonious. Then when I asked her to explain harmonious, she said, like, you should be like magnets, like, you should come together. There is a space in between, but you want to stay together. You should not repel each other. But her husband and her boyfriend and her, they were kind of repelling each other, so there was no chemistry between them. So that lack of connection was there during her pregnancy. And that is why she said, I like avoiding the things. She started avoiding her boyfriend. She said, I wanted to give myself more space, and I found him too. He rushed into everything. Like, again, the same gesture with her daughter told me about a dentist and a mother when they wanted to hug him, or when the dentist wanted to work with her. Even she felt that he was rushing into everything. We did not harmonize. We did not harmonize. I liked the idea of being pregnant. I wanted this child, and that's why we broke up. Now, imagine a teenager who was just 19 that time. She was studying in a college. She got pregnant, and she wanted to continue that child with the studies. And the boyfriend obviously did not want to get involved in parenting a child at this age. He was not ready for the child, and that is why this lady got separated from the boyfriend. So just imagine, she was studying at the same time she conceived this child. So there was bleeding in third fourth month of pregnancy. I had a fear of future because there was nobody to fend for me. So she had these issues. Dreams during pregnancies. Mother's dreams during pregnancy means, during pregnancy the mother has had these dreams. There was traveling, that she loved traveling. She could see water, she could see homes and relationships. Also, she dreamt that she has forgotten her child's pram in the open, and it was cold night and it could have been lethal. She felt guilty as she was already dating another guy during pregnancy. Now see this. She is 19 years old. She is pregnant. She had a boyfriend whom she could not continue because he was not ready to have this child. So during pregnancy with that child, she had another guy. Hmm? And when she was because of that guilt of dating that another guy during pregnancy, in her dreams, she sees that she has forgotten her children's pram in the open, and it was very cold night. It was because it was absolute winter and there was snow in the city. This could have been lethal. So this was her inner fear which she was having, that she might not be able to take care of the child because of her affairs with other guys. So also this girl, she suffered from weight loss, like her weight was going down, and this happened when her father, means the first boyfriend of the mother, he did not come home for Christmas. Now this man, he had his own family. He used to visit his daughter. He never visit, he visited once a year during Christmas, and he had Skype sessions with the daughter. Hmm. So there was one Christmas when the father finally had his own family. He had settled down, and he refused to come home for Christmas because he had his own family. And that was the point when the child started getting these nausea, vomitings, and her weight started going down, right? Also, one time when the father has visited, the mother took a vacation. When during Christmas, the this old boyfriend or the father of the child, he used to visit during Christmas, and that was the time mother found time for vacation. So the father used to drink a lot, and to the extent that one day even he physically abused her. After that the child was insecure about staying with the father. She broke to pieces. That is what the mother said, that after that she broke to pieces, and after 1 year the father did not come, and that was the time when the weight of the child was reduced. So now, the mother's reaction to animals, she says, I'm scared of spiders. I love caterpillars. I'm scared of lions and tigers. They are too huge. Now, this mother, she has fascination for insects. When I asked her what other animals you like, she says, I am a artist by profession, and I love insects. I love their patterns, colors, and minuteness, and I'm intrigued by insects. She says ki they are so colorful, all these insects, that I'm intrigued, and I love the green caterpillar. And I asked her what is the experience of a caterpillar. She said the caterpillar is very soft, it is very velvety, it is very tender, it is very receptive. It is receptive like a magnet. You remember this word magnet was used in her history, and it feels very kind. The caterpillar is very kind. So this was coming from the absolute nonsense. Now the analysis of the case. We needed the mother's history during pregnancy, and we had to know about the mother so that we can see the bits and pieces. Homeopathy is like playing with the jigsaw puzzles. We have some pieces and some pieces are missing. So we need to fit those pieces from information. So mother's history during pregnancy is one of the things. Now, remedy, what was common in both of them? Both were talking about space. And one more thing which I saw in my analysis is both were creative, both were talking about space, both were restless. The mother was also, like she wanted new, she was bored of the same things, routine things. She said, I can't work in a 9 to 5 job. I like to be a freelancer. I'm an artist. I don't want to be bound. I just have that, I just want to move everywhere. I love traveling. So, what we see is she wanted that freedom also. So, what we see in both, one, this is the analysis, this was the information which came through. I did not choose this information, whatever comes through, but we need many tools. That is what I tell my students, that you can't have one tool and work with the case. When you are a carpenter or when you are a surgeon, you need to have forceps of all this. You need needles of all sizes. If you are a carpet, you need all tools. You can't make furniture with one tool. You need so many tools. So all these methods are just one more tool in your pocket. So here I could see adolescence. The child was also, the girl, she was also so precautious. She seemed like a teenager, and same was her mother. She had so many affairs in her teenage. She got pregnant in a teenage, and even after carrying that child, she had one more affair, and again she had affair. And after the child also, when the father came to meet her, she wanted to go and travel. She did not want to stay with the father, although he was married again, but still she could have stayed back for the child, but she found her freedom when the father came. So what we see, that adolescent quality, like as if again she's a teenager, she doesn't want to grow up. That is what we could see in the child, one who has grown up to early to the teenage, and the mother was not wanting. So what we see, the teenage, this is coming very strongly in this. So now this is air adolescence. What one does in adolescence? It is just fun, party time, wanting to enjoy life, partying and festival, right? That is what adolescence is. And it is, adolescence is very creative. You become very creative, and that is a time when you have to think, like, what part of creative you have to choose your passion. That is the adolescent thing. So here, kingdom, what we see, we can clearly see that kingdom here is animal. In both the cases, somebody coming over me, the nightmares, the pain, the mother talking about the animals, and the way she says about her husband, he's an animal, he's a monster, he did this, he abused my daughter. So there is a you in this whole, both the cases. There is a you, that I'll be squashed, I will be, there will be a stampede. So the kingdom here is animal. It's an invertebrate. So it's a very vulnerable, unprotected, squashed, crushed stampede. What is the fate of an insect? Right? The main fear of an insect, or the death of the insect, is sudden, very violent, and it is just squashed. We see cockroaches also, they are on the floor and we just have our feet on that. We see ants. So there is a fear of being squashed, crushed, and stampedes. So now this is the chart. This is the chart of animals. Dr. Gandhi has tried to make this chart based on his understanding. So what we see is, we have insects in the infancy and childhood. It is the earth element. Here they want to ground. She's studying, she's trying to find out things to ground herself. We see that age. And also what we see, Lepidoptera, which is adolescence, and that is what we see, air element here, adolescence, air, and we see Lepidoptera. So this is an insect. When we can see the chart, we can see that both these ladies, they are not wanting to take their responsibility, and there is air element. So they belong to that adolescence phase, and the remedy and the group we are seeing is Lepidoptera, and that was the remedy which I gave her, the insect remedy. What is an insect? Insect is, like, the span of insect is very small, as we all know, and insect is about reproduction. There is shameless sexuality in an insect, because their lifespan is very small and they have to just multiply. Their needs are very basic, and that is what we could see in that female. Basic instincts, she was just living her basic instincts. Sexuality was there. The journey is from earth to sky. Acrobatics, caught up in fabrics. We saw the hobby of the daughter, the girl. Acrobatics, she likes to be caught up in the fabrics, and her fear of being squashed and crushed below the feet. So here it's an insect. And what she said, ki, you're hanging with the fabrics upside down, and this is coming from the source, the butterfly, right? The insect given was butterfly. Now the remedy was Limentis C. So now when we studied the proving, this is coming from the, first we saw the sensation method, we saw how the insect came, and then with the chart we saw which exact insect, the adolescent. The insect which is an adolescent, right? We could see all the themes of adolescence in these mother and daughter. This is the colorful butterfly. The colors were the main source of inspiration for the mother, and even the child had a color box in front of her. And when we study the proving of Nancy Herrick, The story of butterfly is like a Cinderella. The fairy tale Cinderella. So, what does Cinderella, the butterfly, symbolizes? It symbolizes a life of free without responsibility. You could see the mother. She wanted to have the child, but she wanted that freedom also, which is the air element, which is the adolescent element. So, in proving symptoms recognized from the proving of Nancy Herrick, the children feel unprotected by adults. State of unprotected adolescent. The eggs of this butterfly are laid in an open air and are not covered, so they are not protected. Now, this unprotected feeling is coming from the source where the eggs are not protected. And how it translates into human, this is these people, they are stuck in a stage of adolescence, but they are not protected and they land up in teenage pregnancy. So, this remedy we can use in such cases of teenage pregnancy when there is no father figure or parent figure to guide them how to control their instincts, their sexual instincts in this period. There is no guidance from the parent family. So, this is what the case crystallizes now. You can see the teenage pregnancy, you can see the sexuality, you can see the adolescence, you can see the need for freedom, you can see just wavering and without responsibility. So, here the children are without guidance, they feel anxious. Relationships are the focus of life. Relationships are good, sweet, and smooth. Deep missing of the mother who died some years ago. Dreams of danger, dullness, difficulty of thinking and comprehending, aversion to mental work. That is why this lady was creative. She was in that air element. What is air? Air is just flowing. So how is a butterfly? Just flowing, it will come, it will flow. It is attracted towards only the colorful flowers. So there is no responsibility. Just they get charmed and they just carried away by the here the flower is symbolic of the sexual attraction, magnetized desire to be. They are attracted, magnetized towards those flowers. So there is inability to think. Obviously, there is no responsibility in the female. There is inability to think what will happen to her child. She just wanted to have a child. She just had it. Oversensitive, picking up emotions of others. Now here, this is the boundary issue here. They don't have boundaries, that is why they are scared of people coming into them. So here we see it's quite different from the previous case which had very strong boundaries, just stay away, and here they are coming and these are scared, that we'll be squashed. So this is the difference and this is how we see the evolution. Obviously this is an animal, this is an invertebrate which doesn't even have its own spine. So without the spine, anybody can enter and they'll feel squashed. So this is lack of boundaries and that is why they are very oversensitive and picking up emotions of other. This is quite opposite to the first case. They are not oversensitive. They are oversensitive to the injury done by. Here they will pick up the emotions as it is. So how was the energy of the child? The cheerfulness, lightness, feeling of, they are just that they just want to be cheerful and they want to be light and going either ek fool se dusre fool pe, one flower to another. There are only three remedies here. One is limb-C, that is the butterfly which I gave her, and one is oleum and one is petroleum. So this lightness of being of a butterfly, you can see the source, how the source comes and crystallizes into the rubrics. Mind concentration, difficult studying, reading well. Because of the air element, if you have a case of dyslexia, if you have difficulty in concentration, studying, it means there is erraticness of thoughts. This is the air element, right? So that is why this remedy helped her to collect her thoughts and they were not wavering. Just this is it. So this is the air element. You have to remember in dyslexia, in ADHDs, you will see this air element. And that is, here it is adolescence. Reading ailments from aggravation. So now this is the energy. If we see the rubrics of the mother, these were the rubrics of the child. Reading ailments from concentration, difficult, cheerfulness, these three were the rubrics of the child and this is of the mother. Mind, children desires to have, beget to nurture. Now this lady also could have decided to abort the child as it was a teenage pregnancy, but she wanted to go for the child, and that is the rubric. They want to beget, they want to nurture, they want to have children, and that is limb C. Only only few remedies are there, and one of them is limb C here. Limb Dreams, mind, dreams, child unprotected by parents. Single remedy, limb C. Mind, dreams, child, children neglecting her. She has this guilt. Again, same dream the mother had. Mind, dreams, remorse of child, of death of child due to maternal carelessness. This was the exact dream of the mother. She had that remorse because of her carelessness, which in her case was having an affair with the other guy, and the child died, and there was a remorse in her dreams, right? So this was the exact rubric of the remedy, and this is what the remedy is. Dreams of the mother. Mind dreams snow, strange, dark cities filled with. Means there is snow in a strange city, and that my child is out there in the pram unprotected. And the child has died and she was in remorse. So, this is the state of the mother. And the butterfly is a remedy which can see more colors, the eyes are such. So now this is the air element. Air is the element that is mobile, eternally dynamic with no arrest. It's in constant motion, constant, and the speed is uniquely characteristics. So there are tactile senses are air. In the mind, the thoughts and their constant motion is well represented by air. So the thoughts will be very constant, they'll be like air thing. And that's why there will be ADHD and dyslexia in air. In all the cases of ADHD, in most of the cases, you will see the child is not able to sit one place. The thoughts are very hyperactive. They are very hyperactive, right? So there will be many mood changes. Watch out for the depletion of overaction, exhaustion, and they will be very, and these persons who have lot of air. So in personal evolution method, we have these 6 subclasses, and then we have vertebrates and invertebrates, and further they are classified on the element they are having. So as we all know that we are made up of panch tattvas. These 5 tattvas are in us, but the predominant element or the tattva in us, it helps us to come to the remedy, right? So again, this is what we are trying to learn, and this is what actually, some of the cases are just presenting. In this case, you can see air. That is what came up. The space. She's talking about space. She's talking about freedom. She's talking about lightness. She's talking about that adolescent air. She's talking about creativity. Even creativity is air element. So we are able to translate many things, or many information which we were not able to do. What do I do with this? I could see that she's a teenager, but so what? How does it help me in my prescription? But now things have started making sense. So recently, and as we are talking about these elements right now, yeah, in my first case of autism, which was around 8 to 10 years ago, what I saw was the parent, they gave me a follow up that, ma'am, now my child has started to put his feet on the ground. Now he's touching the earth. Pehle now, what he used to do, if his hands were stuck with the mud of the garden or something, he used to just cry and he wanted himself to be cleaned immediately. So the first healing was with the element of the earth. That is what the parent told me. I didn't ask her. I asked her what happened of the after the dose. She said, "Ma'am, he has started playing with the mud. He has now started going to the garden. Even if he's without his shoes, now he's okay to put his feet down on the earth." So now this what we see, that there was a healing with this element of the earth. And after 1 or 2 months, she came back for the second follow up. She said, Now, ma'am, he's playing with water. He has started enjoying the rain and he just shows me this small droplets of water and he's so happy. So 8 to 10 years ago also, when I didn't know this method, the patient came and told me how the healing is happening, the elemental healing is happening. So again, when I, just think of that case, again it gave me some clues that, that elemental healing happens in our cases too. Hmm? So there is a definite connection between elements and our medicines and the state of the remedies and the healing. And also in cases of autism, what I see that the body is not, the soul has not come into the body. They are not willing to live. They are not ready to ground. They are not ready to come on in this earth. They're just hovering. They are not into their bodies, right? So when this process happened, he's getting healed with the earth, he's getting healed with the water. It means this he's now started, he came into his body. And the third follow-up, my mother told me, now he's observing himself in the mirror. He's observing himself in the mother and he wears his goggles and caps and he looks at himself. He looks at himself from various aspects and he has now started enjoying his body. So, getting that soul now, which was not coming down, it has come down to the body and has started embracing this body, and this is what is healing in autism. So when you have cases, you'll able to see all these different aspects of the cases, and you'll learn so much from each case. And each case, it brings so much for you to learn, and you just have to be open, and you have to be grateful for for the little angels and their parents who teach us so much. So now butterfly, in essence, it seems that the butterfly represents the state of emotional freedom and love without hindrances of responsibility and thought process. So this was in 1998. This proving was done by Nancy Herrick. And see what it is written, what she has written. In essence, it seems that the butterfly represents a state of emotional freedom and love without the hindrances of responsibility and thought process. This lady, she did not have the idea of responsibility. She did not have a thought process that I am 19 years old and I want to beget a child. How is it possible? She was not grounded enough to have this, and that is what is butterfly. So if you have any case of teenage pregnancy which is not planned and they have continued, see, now what we are doing is, we have narrowed the whole personality, right? How the personality will be and when to give Lamentis. So this nowadays what we are seeing in colleges, they are just living in, they don't have that responsibility, and then the children and all, these are the aspects of what now we are experiencing in India. This was lot because this case is from Netherlands. I think it, that cultural difference we are now experiencing. I think this is a time that we'll start getting these cases in India too, these kind of themes. So this is again sensitive, highly sensitive antennae, the feeling of being small, dreamy world in the cocoon, and opposite polarities, play and amusement. There are concentration problems, emotions, not the mind, inability to think, sensitive to noise, sensitive to changes in the atmosphere. Hmm. So, feeling unsafe is a strong theme. The eggs are not covered. And this was one more physical characteristic which the child gave me, that whenever somebody tries to come over her, she says, I get the sticky perspiration on my hand, I don't know why. So this also I got in the while doing the retrospective study, perspiration, clammy evening, and that is having limpsy. These are the list of butterflies. So mental symptoms are feeling of abandonment, no guidance, metamorphosis, transsexuality, butterfly dreams. So it's a delicate and fragile and slim body. They love to dance, move restlessly, wear bright dresses, wrap arms around themselves while talking. So generals are better by in dry open spaces. Again, we see the need for open spaces. and desire for rich food, sweet things, and wine, that is the nectar. So they desire the nectar of life, right? They are just after that pleasant sweetness of light without knowing the responsibilities. So that nectar, what is that nectar for butterfly? When it is translated to human life, that is just enjoyment and amusement without responsibilities. This was the follow up. She has no yummy ache while eating, yet allergies. She seems less stressed. The gluten anxiety is also gone. My patience with her is also increasing, and she can mumble. She has made good progress, and the punch in the gut is also gone. And this was a testimonial she gave me later when the case was over. My daughter had 2 sessions with Dr. Meeta Nilani as following her remedy. First 2 sessions were deeply transforming. Now see this word transforming in the follow-up. Butterflies and insects, they are known for metamorphosis. So their words, that metamorphosis, that transformation is the word which came in the follow-up, right? So whatever comes in the follow-up also gives you the clue and confirms the remedy. It was deeply transforming. Yes, as Nilani found a remedy, magic happened immediately. Her eyes lit up and her mind and body became healthy again. Even her handwriting improved so much, no one would ever believe it is written by the same person. The remedy chosen really put my girl into her own self, her own power. I would not hesitate to recommend Dr. Nilani to anyone for kind and non confronting therapy with possibly fantastic results. Again, this is non confronting, they don't like to be confronted. So, the same words are coming in the follow up, and this was very beautiful, the deeply transforming. There was a deep transformation, and this is what the insects look for, a deep transformation. They want to evolve, they want to come out of that ugly caterpillar phase to the full blown butterfly. So that is a metamorphosis. So now dyslexia is a learning disorder, involves difficulty reading due to problems identifying speech. It affects the part of brain that process language, but we could see that the air element was there, and that is what was corrected with the remedy. This is the caterpillar which she loved. So this girl also had one dream of, having that poisonous. Somebody gave her a poisonous food, and there are many caterpillars which are poisonous. So this was again to the source. So this was all about today. So I'm done. Thank you. And if you have any queries. If there are any queries. The repertory used was complete repertory. No, mother was not given any remedy. I just prescribed for the child. I don't know whether she took it on her own. Right, so we are also doing a webinar on these elements. We have recently done a webinar at Vitalia H based on the subclasses and elements, and we'll be doing shortly. We'll be doing a second this basics of an introduction to PEM method, the basics, subclasses and elements we have done recently. So if you have any queries, I would love to answer them. Dr. Deepu, right?
Hello, doctor. I think there is no questions in the chat book.
Okay, thank you so much then. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Actually, it was an excellent session.
Thank you.
You have explained everything very clearly, doctor. I hope this bundle of knowledge would be very helpful for our doctors to handle this pediatric, psychiatric cases with much confidence.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your effort, your time you shared with us.
Right.
Okay, on behalf of IHMA Piravam and IHMA Trivandrum, we express our sincere gratitude to Dr. Mita Niglani. And also thank you for all the participants for joining us.
Yeah, and please do join our Vitalia H webinars. We are just discussing whatever small little understanding we have from Dr. Gandhi. And also, Dr. Gandhi is coming on our platform once a month to share his knowledge and wisdom with us.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, doctor.
Hello, Prema.
Yes, hi, Deepu. How are you? Hi, Mita.
Hi, Priya.
Yeah, good.
Hello, hi. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you here.
I just wanted to very quickly put information about the mega mollusk webinar that is coming up. I have shared the posters with Dr. Deepu, and this is going to be a very excellent webinar that we're doing, focusing completely on the mollusks.